is the Suzuki Vitara S. Now, what is the Vitara S? Well, the Vitara is an SUV from Suzuki, and the Vitara S, to quote, is the sporty addition to the Vitara range. Now, it probably won't come as any real surprise for me to tell you that this isn't a sports car, but unlike many other SUVs, it does have some genuine utility vehicle ability. It has a four-wheel drive system called All Grip, and there are 4 modes to it. Firstly, there's an automatic mode, and automatic leaves it, for the most part, in front-wheel drive only. It's only when you get to a slippery surface it'll put it in four-wheel drive. Then there's a sport mode, which keeps it permanently in four-wheel drive mode for better grip. Then there's a snow, which, as the name suggests, is for when you're on snow, but also, more generally, just when you're on a loose surface. And then there's a mode called Lock, which basically uses the car's limited slip differential to send power to the wheel with the most traction. Now, I'm going to be honest, I haven't put that tech to the test because, quite frankly, I don't want to have to phone up Suzuki and say, "Hi, I put your car in a field and I can't get it out." But this car has surprised me, actually. It does have its flaws, but for the most part, it's been a bit of a surprise. There are 3 engines. There's a 1.6 litre diesel, there's a 1.6 litre naturally aspirated petrol, and then there's a 1.4 litre 4-cylinder turbo petrol. And that is the engine I've got in this at the moment, and it is really, really good. It's got 140 brake horsepower, 162 foot-pounds of torque, and 0 to 60 takes 10.2 seconds, and the top speed is 124 miles an hour. Now, those aren't particularly mesmerising figures, but I tell you what, it does give this car a completely different character than I was expecting, and it's just a cracking little engine. I mean, runs out of puff just before the red line, but it's a lot more fun than I was expecting, a lot more fun. The gearbox is a 6-speed manual gearbox, and again, like the engine, is better than I thought it would be. And the suspension, well, there isn't anywhere near as much roll as you would think from a Suzuki SUV. In fact, it actually stays quite flat, and combined with the gearbox, the engine, it gives this car a character of a much smaller car. It does feel a lot smaller than it really is. I think the steering is probably the weakest part of the package, and it's not because it's bad, but it's just that first little bit of movement when you put that first bit of steering input in. It's a little bit too light and a little bit too vague. Once you've got a bit more lock on, it's a lot better, but it's just that initial movement. But what disappoints though is the interior. It's not that it's been designed poorly, it's not that things are falling off, it's just the quality and the feel of the materials. They're not that brilliant in places. Like this plastic up here on the door, it just doesn't look very nice. It doesn't feel very nice. It's got sat-nav, it's got Apple CarPlay, it's got a DAB radio, it's got all the kit you'd want. But as a car to sit in and live with on a day-to-day basis, it's just not quite good enough. There are other cars on sale for similar money that have got much, much better interiors than this does. I think if you were looking at one of these, what you'd really have to sit down and think about is, how often am I going to use the four-wheel drive system, and how often am I just going to use it as a normal everyday road car? Because the money has been spent on the four-wheel drive system and not on the interior quality. Now, for me personally, if I was spending £22,749 on a car, I'd want the interior to feel a little bit nicer. But if you're a keen off-roader, then you might not be so bothered. All in all though, this car has surprised me. It's just got more character than I was expecting, and the engine is actually really good fun. It's not a sports car, but it is definitely better to drive than you might think.